things. I'm really good. I'm getting so after gosh, it's been like 10 months of doing this. I'm still so good at having these opens. So hello everybody. Welcome to the stream. If this is your first time here, one of the things I do in the hour before a new Step Back video comes out and shows itself to the world, and I learn about what thing I did wrong. I talk to the audience for an hour, answer some questions, have some chats, be a little bit of a community, and then at the end of it, you get to watch a Step Back video. It's all fun. If you're into Step Back, I guess. So, I can already see that we got some of the regulars are already in the chat. We got somebody munching down on some fish and chips. We got Hoar. We're good. We're already getting going. And also, I should mention that if you want to follow this on Twitch, it is available on Twitch as well. So I'm watching the Twitch chat, and I want to see if I can get a thing going there. Although if YouTube's your thing, it's your thing. Whatever you want to do. So I guess I could start off by talking about the last stream was a fun change of pace. Well, awesome, Nicholas. So on Tuesday this week, Step Back Tonight, which is the weekly stream I do on Tuesday nights, I streamed myself failing to play Assassin's Creed, and I think we all came to the conclusion that if I'm going to play Assassin's Creed in the future, I need to really consider dumping the playing with the keyboard and mouse and get a controller. So I bought a USB Xbox controller that'll be showing up sometime in the next few days, so maybe we could try it again. Although I got a specific request to talk about alternate history tomorrow or next week, so because someone really liked the last one, and the data, the views showed that people really liked the alternate history video. And I think Cody's book will be coming out, if not that day, but like it'll be the day before, so we definitely could get into that. Do you fully understand the various meaning of various Twitch emotes yet? If so, then I'll switch to Twitch. No, I don't actually. I would love to learn about if there's like reasons for things like that, but oh man, all right. So we got all sorts of buds coming out. So yeah, we got Nicholas, we got Luke Lee, Young Anarchy. Is Young Anarchy? I feel like your name sounds recognizable, but also there are so many anarchists who are in my audience that I don't know if you're new, but if you're new, hello. Night Watcher's Pet, how you doing? My trusty moderator. Girthax is here. Good. 255 AD. Always with the hard-hitting questions to keep everything juicy. So he got the first question. And Frozzy108. Frozzy108, you sound new too. If this is your first time in the stream, please talk in the chat, because I would love to see how many people where this is the first time they've come to one of these streams. I'd be really curious. And Michael Kirshner. Yeah. Okay. Now we're a party. Michael's here, so now we can have a party. The first question comes from patron 255 AD. And also, you don't have to be a patron to ask a question. I try to just go in order, but if you super chat, I guess I'll do that next. I'll do your question next, but that's an unofficial thing. I don't get enough super chats for that to be a thing, but it's there. Hint. No. Sorry. It's okay. Geshtin finally made it before halfway through. Awesome. All right, let's see what the first question is. I should probably, we're almost 5 minutes in and I haven't even started the first question yet. Okay. Lofert, welcome to the stream. Awesome. And yeah, my wonderful wife Kelly is sick, and so this is the first time that she hasn't been at work while I'm doing this stream. So she's gonna watch live. Okay, you disagree with a lot of my politica. I'm very sorry about that. All right. 255 AD has a question. I keep hearing quote-unquote liberals argue that if we have UBI and open borders, too many people will move to the global north to live off the state/government. What would you say to people who think that? So one of the things that the UBI discussion, I hope that I can I'm just gonna keep talking until I come to a formative answer. So first of all, I am an advocate for open borders and an advocate for at least using universal basic income as a way to move ourselves off of capitalism and reliance on things. But we should probably talk about a few things. So one, universal basic income should not be treated like it's some sort of lost leader. I do honestly think that if you were to have a large enough culture and society that is getting that government, the thing about the way that UBI would work is that it increases something called spending velocity. And so when you put people in a situation where they have a regular income that they can rely on, and they're less afraid of, making ends meet, then they'll be better spenders. People who have enough money to survive, people who don't have enough money to survive also spend all their money. But if you were to bring in more people into the country, you would be able to fund them to buy groceries, pay rent, invest in the economy. And all of their consuming would be even under a capitalist paradigm of stuff, would lead to investment in the economy. It would lead to growing of markets. And since capitalists always want their economy to grow, an easy way to get more money into the economy, if you don't have, a finite, or if you don't have an infinite money supply, is to just get the money moving faster. And if the government's money is going instantly out to people who are instantly going to buy stuff, then you end up in a much better situation. On top of that, with UBI, you have less worries about the race to the bottom, so that open borders and unemployment are not things that you need to be as concerned about trying to address. High unemployment rates are going to be a sort of fact of life of the future. And on top of that, it's been shown that universal basic income programs will incentivize people towards some of the things that a lot of liberals would think are good. If you had, both open borders and UBI programs are really great ways of sponsoring entrepreneurship. So if you want to have, because it takes a certain type of person. A certain type of person is self-selected to migrate to another country. Sometimes out of desperation, but many times it's out of a desire to make a name for yourself, make a better life for you and your family. And so a lot of liberals usually saying, I think they're just lots of people are just going to move here so that they can live off basic income. Well, they'll move here, they'll live off basic income, but given the situation where they don't have to worry about their day-to-day living, you are going to incentivize lots of people to come and start businesses and do interesting things that will lead to not only a larger market, but a more competitive capitalistic framework, a much more healthy economy for capitalists. I feel dirty saying all these things because really UBI and open borders should be based on the fact that they are both necessary for the common good. But if we have to argue on their terms about the economic value of letting people into your country and the economic value of giving people basic income so that they don't have to worry about affording rent and eating food and surviving, then that would be the way I would do it. Okay. Frozzy108, what do you think about people censoring World War II history? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Could you elaborate? I don't know who's censoring World War II history. Is it the far right? Are you talking about Holocaust denial? because that shit's annoying. That shit is just, neo-Nazis masquerading as people trying to do legitimate history, and like there's no controversy. Holocaust denial is called Holocaust denial because it is in denial of all of the observable evidence. This has been shown over and over again in court cases and by the overwhelming majority of academic historians, especially those who study the Holocaust. But I don't know if that's what you meant. So if you can reformat that question, if that's not what you meant, then please do so, and I'll get to it. Is Bolsonaro going to win Brazil's election? Well, at least you are on a second round of elections. You've got this sort of social democrat person. I'm trying to remember what the second dude's whole platform is, but I thought it was sort of like a leftish party. But I don't know the details on that. But we shall see. I think that at the moment not knowing too much about what's going on in Brazil right now, I would say the option is ahead of you, which means that things are open to change. I mean, given how close Bolsonaro got to winning in the first round, I would say it's more likely than not, but it's a thing that can turn around. And it looks like some people are starting to finally get scared. Maybe the John Oliver effect will tweak things up quite a bit. All right, Frozzy108, opinion on Jeremy Corbyn and the rise of the far right. Oh gosh, okay. So Jeremy Corbyn seems pretty chill. I know that every time I hear about Jeremy Corbyn, I've heard that like him and the Labour Party of the UK, like he's often at odds with his own party, which makes sense given how it's like going from someone like oh gosh, what was that guy's Tony Blair to like someone like Jeremy Corbyn. I've heard some accusations of anti-Semitism, but I don't know if that goes beyond him being critical of the actions of the State of Israel, because I know that a lot of countries like to label anybody who criticizes the foreign policy of Israel or their, open apartheid state situation. That they're labeled as anti-Semites, but honestly, again, I'm not really a big expert on modern-day British politics, so I don't know exactly the details of what's going on with that, but from the stuff that I've seen, Jeremy Corbyn seems pretty cool. Would you rather be a lower-class farmer in AD 888 Britain or a low-class factory worker in 1888 Britain? Definitely I would go with the 888 AD farmer in Britain, because if I was a farmer in Britain, I would live in communalist farms that had, while they had a feudal monarchy, you had a count or a duke who who was sort of in charge of you, who was very often not around. Like, most often the powerful, like the feudal rulers would be absent. They would either be off at war or they would be in a different court or something like that. If you live in the county seat of a duke, the duke might be at a different one of his holdings at a different time. And so very often your feudal rulers had very little to do with your day-to-day life. And so if you are a farmer for, the feudal order, you have to pay a tithe, like your feudal, it's called your feudal burden. And you would be, working about 90 days out of the year goes towards paying the feudal, paying your feudal lord your duty to the lord. And on top of that, though, like the peasants who lived under that system had a self-organized rule. For the most part, there was not a strong hand of the government, and for the most part, you had a active, you like the way that we portray peasants is so outdated. Like, you had a very active lifestyle. You ate a lot of vegetables, a lot of bread, but you know, you life wasn't that terrible, especially if you said 1888, the Victorian Britain, very different, where you would be forced to live in a city that you couldn't afford to live in. You'd probably live in a small bedroom with 6 other people. You would work 6 to 7 days a week with 8 to 10 hour shifts. I would probably think actually closer to 10 to 12 hour shifts in dangerous, unregulated, hot, ugly conditions where your boss has dictatorial control over your day-to-day life. If you can even afford to eat food, then you get it. But for the most part, you were constantly ravaged by diseases like cholera and diphtheria and pneumonia. And to be a factory worker in Victorian London would be disgusting and terrible and awful and just like not a life you want to live. But while being a 9th century British farmer actually wouldn't be that bad. I mean, as far as like living in pre-modern society standards go. People don't like, we always like to think of like progress as this like linear thing forward, but actually the introduction of some of the things that we consider pieces of progress had huge drawbacks that we then had to spend long periods of time trying to address, and sometimes not addressing it completely. For example, when we moved from our sort of foraging, which is the more modern term for hunter-gatherer, we moved from our foraging society to agricultural society, you can actually see in the archaeological record that after we moved to farming, people got shorter. Their life, like their dietary variety, shot way down. They got less healthy. They died earlier. A lot of evidence shows that once you see farming, you can see that one of the signs you can tell that agriculture has started in a region is that their teeth start rotting away, because usually they're just eating grains. And so you end up with a lot of people, like a lot of times they have terrible dental hygiene. They don't live very long. They're not very healthy while they're alive. And there's tons and tons of issues because they didn't understand micronutrients back then. So people really weren't getting the vitamins and minerals they needed. And so people were, getting goiters and all sorts of things like that. And it wasn't until, we understood the balanced diet, which was like in the 20th century when we really understood how vitamins and minerals work, that we really took care of that part. After that, we ended up with the industrialization. And industrialization, while it gave many more people the luxuries of life and it built a strong middle class and it, created all of this new wealth, it did result in a lot of people, many more than those who benefited, to live much less free lives. When you're a farmer, you have a lot more control over what you do with your day than, say, a factory worker who works for shifts. And, hey, Blondie, if you have to go, if you want to keep watching this stream, if you just keep this link and you just come back when you're done whatever it is you're doing, you can always just pick up. You won't be able to ask questions, unfortunately, but it'll be here. It won't go away. So you'll be able to watch it later if you'd like. To kind of complete on the whole thing, like industrial workers lost a lot of their autonomy over their lives, and that has only gotten worse over time. I guess there was, the introduction of the 8-hour workday, and now things are flexed. But now, there's this movement towards the 24-hour workday, where you are basically always, because of your phone and such, you're always in reach of people, and so sometimes you're just always on call, which can be difficult. So we really tend to think of these things as universal good signs of progress, but it's not really all that true. sometimes when the means of production change and our economy and our society changes with it, it's not necessarily good for the majority of people who live in that society. Okay. Next question comes from Frozzy108. I mean, people who try to block it out of their services, I guess. So, what's a company trying to block World War II from their services? I'm not, like, I want to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, Frozzy. I'm just not sure what you're trying to ask me about. All right, Blondie, I hope that you're not sacrificing something with your life. Because go to school, Blondie. Don't stay here for a stream. Go to school. You'll be able to watch the stream later. Don't worry. I don't want anybody to miss school because they wanted to hear me goof off on the internet. All right, Gers, should it be allowed to deny the Holocaust? I would say that, I mean, I'm not going to, set out, like, morality police to beat down the doors and, like, beat people up who deny the Holocaust, but no righteous person, no good person should let Holocaust deniers speak at a venue. And if you are associated with a venue or a place where a Holocaust denier is trying to speak, you should protest their being given a platform. I do think that it should be illegal to publish their writings, and it should be illegal to use public spaces to let them give them a platform. And definitely, if a private institution gave them a platform, we should all be very, very angry about it, and people should be protesting and trying to disrupt it. Because without that, I liken the argument about hate speech. Maybe this will get me in trouble because I am anti-hate speech. Is that, like, being a Holocaust denier and trying to make amends or trying to make excuses for the Nazis is tantamount, in my mind, to screaming fire in a crowded theater. You are, through your speech, causing people to disparage these groups that have typically been targeted for violence, oppression, and death, and you are making it more normal, or you're making it more acceptable to attack this group, which, in my mind, is tantamount to adding to an atmosphere that would lead to people being in danger, which means that you should not be allowed to, you should not be given a platform to do that. The government should definitely not be allowed to. So if you're speaking at a university that's publicly funded, no, that should be illegal. If you are talking to the private club of somebody, I think that it would be in everyone's best interest to protest them. And I think that anybody who platforms those kinds of people should not get any sort of public funds. And I would argue that people should attack them, or not like violently attack them, but should try to resist their ability to do that. Because I think that Holocaust deniers really need to be challenged. They need to know that there is no place where they are going to speak where they're not going to be challenged, because their ideas are literally dangerous. There are people's lives on the line with things like that. And I apply that to all sorts, like I apply that to radical misogynists, to transphobes, to, even to people like, what the hell's that guy's name? Milo Snuffleupagus, coming in, talking at a university, like all of that. I think this applies to all of them. Nobody who has a history of preaching hate should be given a platform with public funds. And definitely, if somebody private does it, you should be telling them not to do it. Whether that be through protests, whether that be through calling them, whether that be through withdrawing funds from that organization. Like, for example, my alma mater, Western University and my alma mater, Bishop's University, have both had right-wing speakers go to their university, and I refuse to, I would never accept, if I was ever asked to speak at one of these universities, I wouldn't do it until they have apologized. For example, Western had Jordan Peterson speak a few years ago, and I would refuse to speak at Western until they apologize for letting Jordan Peterson speak at their university. And also, I will not donate funds until I will not, even if I had the money for it, I would not donate to the university unless they apologized for giving a platform to hate speech. Yeah, I shouldn't say Snuffleupagus because honestly, one of the things that maybe doesn't come across in my streams, but definitely would come across if you knew me long enough, is that I'm really, really into the Muppets, and Snuffleupagus, as being part of the wider Muppet empire, is someone I really like. The design of Snuffleupagus is great, and I would not want to disparage that wonderful mammoth, that wonderful Sesame Street mammoth by associating him with Milo Yiannopoulos, I think his name is. Yeah. All right. I'm talking in circles about the hate speech thing, but yeah. All right. So let's see. Next question is from Ian Lees. Hey, bit of a question for my wife. Would a memoir that was translated by a Holocaust sympathizer be a compromised source of information? If you're a historian, so when you're a historian and you have to work with primary sources, you are always working with compromised sources. There's no such thing as objectivity. One of the things about working with historical documents is that you are always working with biased figures and compromised data. And so part of the work of a historian is to, through corroboration, through what's called reading against the grain, and through contextual analysis and semantic analysis, so studying the word choice and the themes and ideas that you can see being brought across, and understanding the person that made said text and trying to think it, you can get information. You can get usable information from the worst people's writing. You just need to understand that you are seeing through a certain lens, and you need to disentangle things through that, which is hard. It involves doing a lot of side research, but that's basically the work of doing history. But yes, I do love Muppets. I know that they're not exactly cool these days, but I don't know. Anyways, Girthax, do you think Social Security for all is more marketable than UBI? Well, people seem to think so with healthcare, with the whole Medicare for all. So, I'm definitely for the whatever works position of this. So, yeah, if Social Security for all is better than UBI, then sure, let's do it. If it doesn't work, then whatever. I think that in my mind, that would be something that would be a better question for someone who does market research. That'd probably be something for a focus group to answer. But since I know the people who are doing a lot of healthcare stuff say Medicare for all, that I think it might be something to think about. All right, 255 AD. Apparently, in some parts of Rojava, they make it a rule that the administrative councils have to be close to gender equal at all times. Would it be that way in your ideal commune? I think it would be up to it'd be contextual. I think that if we find that gender parity is an issue, so if in my ideal commune, if people meet up and we talk and we find that it's all dudes, then definitely I would try to do something to get more women in. And if one way to do it is to ensure that you had a gender-balanced communal council that showed that women who come will have a voice, then yeah, I think that would actually be pretty valuable. But it's things like that. Like I think they call it what do they call it in the UK, like positive discrimination, or in things like or affirmative action, as it's called in a lot of places. It's used to be a corrective for an imbalance, and if the imbalance is there, I say go for it. It's a way to sort of tilt things until they're in a good place, and if they're not in a good place, then yeah, they need to be addressed. And if it needs to be forced, it needs to be forced. But I would hope that it would be sort of naturally gender balanced. But I know that that's a pipe dream, and that if we're going to tackle misogyny in a serious way, we would need to probably enforce it. So I would say maybe not originally, but definitely a thing that would happen very soon if we saw really bad gender parity in organization. So I do think that I could imagine that, given the situation going on in Kurdistan, that could be very much the case, and so I understand why the Rojavans are doing that. All right, Emra Yor. Hey, Emra Yort. Hey people, how are the cookies? Well, Emra, those cookies are very good. They are this for anybody who wasn't around for the Tuesday night stream. My wife is a brownie leader, or I guess in America, like Girl Scout leader, and they just did the cookie thing. But in Canada, they have two types of cookies, and the one they're doing now are these like chocolate mint cookies, and they're pretty damn good. She's already sold the whole box, and we have one box for ourselves that is disappearing at a fairly alarming rate. Okay. Don Trump 901, what are your thoughts on the Great Railroad Strike of 1877 in the St. Louis Commune? Do you think you'd ever do a video on the time frame? Those sound like really good ideas. If Night Watcher's Pet, could you link in the chat the idea submission page? So for anybody who has like video ideas that they want to submit, I have a web page that I can that I link people to, where you can submit any video ideas that you want to see happen, and you can upvote ones that you want to see as well. And eventually that results in passing or whichever the video that most people want to see happening. So if you want to submit your idea, just put it in there, because it does sound interesting. I would like to see if we can make a video out of it. But we'll see where it goes from there. All right. Okay, Donald, let's see. Girthax. In our current political climate, what do you think is the best route to a green revolution? Maybe an FDR style New Deal. Actually, yeah, I do think that adding of a whole bunch of I do think that adding so what you're talking about here with an FDR style Green New Deal is actually very close to that was part of the policy platform of Jill Stein, and so yeah, I think it's a decent plan. I think that if you had to work in a liberal capitalist system and you wanted to address the issues of climate change, you have a very uphill battle ahead of you. But one of the ways to put in policies that will result in America getting some actual, or anybody really, getting some actual climate justice taken care of would be to put programs in place that not only exist, but actively help people. Like, the reason why so many New Deal programs were hard to take away is because by the time that they had existed for a while, there were lots of Americans who relied a lot upon it. Like, how many times the Republicans would love to have taken away Social Security to know that there's too many people who vote Republican who also have Social Security, and they would hate to see it taken away. And you really would need, like, if you want to make the greening of the economy based on getting people nice, like, well-paying government jobs, And then if the right tries to reverse those, you'd be taking away jobs. And that's an easy way to sort of question and be like, to build things that last. It seems like it's strange that in a democratic country, if you build things that are good for people, all of a sudden they want to vote for you more. I know it's a thing that Democrats typically don't like learning, even though FDR was like the best at doing it, but it would be, a thing. Hey, Square Brackets, welcome. If this is your first stream, that's awesome. Welcome aboard. But yeah, Girthex, I would take a look at Jill Stein's platform of a Green New Deal. It's actually a pretty good plan. AJ2000, hi, are you still bad at Assassin's Creed? Yes, I am. Yeah, on Tuesday I tried playing the first Assassin's Creed, and I'd never played it before, and it's supposed to be for a console, but again, it's still. I played it on keyboard and mouse, and it was just a disaster. Hopefully, I'll be a little bit better once I actually get that that Xbox controller that I ordered. It's still in the mail. All right, Wolframium. Do you support Proudhon's anarchist mutualism? I mean, it's better than what we have now, but still, like, if I remember, Proudhon and Proudhonists during the Paris Commune were very much like, they were like sort of anarchists who also wanted a market. And I mean, markets are not a long-term positive thing. Just ask any economy. So I would think that it's like, it's a thing. It's a problem. Sorry, friends. You turn your bell on. Awesome, Blondie. I hope you'll enjoy all the content that comes out, because I make a lot. Okay. So, 255 AD, my favorite SF writer became a millionaire writing stories about how capitalism is bad and fully luxury gay space communism is preferable. Is that a hypocritical way to get rich? A little bit, but also capitalism makes hypocrites of all of us. I'm here talking to you guys, trying to say that capitalism is bad and having issues. And I mean, this channel still makes me money. It is part of my income. If it made me rich, I would probably feel profoundly uncomfortable about it, and I would have to do something. But unfortunately, I guess it's a strange thing to think of. I would think that author feels profoundly uncomfortable with their wealth. But if they don't, maybe they are, like, if they're just making money off of criticism of capitalism, that's one thing, but I don't know. I could see being very, I could see that happening. I could see all of the things causing that to happen, and I could imagine that, is it E&M Banks? Because if so, then that's, like, the most, like, I'd be terrified. Blondie Wise, alt left versus alt right. All right, so first of all, the alt left was a term that was originally coined by Hillary Clinton supporters to attack anybody who was left of her far right agenda, and it was like all of the very overpaid opinion columnists who are centrist liberals used to use the word alt left to basically try and make their really dumb horseshoe argument that people who want justice and equality for everybody are just as bad as all of the people who want to kill anybody who doesn't look like them. And it was a pretty common thing for quite a while. And yeah, I do think that it did that it was used pejoratively. Then that all changed. I think the opinion towards the alt-right all changed with the Charlottesville murders, with all the shit that went down in Charlottesville. And Charlottesville, when Donald Trump was responding to Charlottesville, and they were talking about like, well, like, are you going to denounce the like fascists who like killed this poor girl, Heather Heyer? And Donald Trump defended the man who murdered a woman by saying, well, what about the alt left that came charging in, which like made no sense. And I think then from then on, just like with the nasty women thing, like I think that like the centrists were like, oh, we're part of the alt left, we're part of this, like, and then all of a sudden the word died. But if I were to say there's any such thing as like an alt left or like a left wing that is problematic, there's two branches of it. It's the left wing people who've gone down the conspiracy route and have become like anti-vaxxers and stuff, and it's the side of the left that that mistakes anybody criticizing the United States as a friend. And so you have people like Jeremy Scahill and like The Intercept and such, where you have and what the hell's that guy's name? Gosh, I'm blanking, but he has a show called Redacted Tonight. And there's another guy, oh gosh, Jimmy Dore, on the Jimmy Dore show. Like, these people who buy into anti-American conspiracy theories and also tend to have a very positive opinion of, like, right-wing dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin. And, like, they think that somehow his form of nationalism is better than American nationalism. And I think that those people are kind of have some problems with them. And that's kind of my like thought that like, oh, this is kind of like the alt left in a way, that they are left wing people who are either going down the route of conspiracy theories or for some reason are like associating with like, you know, authoritarian regimes in order to while like for left wing reasons. And Lee Camp is the host of Redacted Tonight. Yeah. All right. And Lee Camp's show Redacted Tonight is on. It's actually on Russia Today. So, you know. All right, J2000. Serious question, will you ever do a video on the Gilded Age in the USA? I kind of did with my Why Is There No Left in America? But if you want a more formal Gilded Age video, as if you look in the chat, if you maybe scroll up a bit, you can find that my wonderful chat moderator, Nightwatcher, has posted a link to the place where you can submit ideas. So I would recommend you go there. And I mean, I don't vote it. I just, you know, unless I really, really want to make a video come out, like I'm like, I need to talk about this right now, I tend to trust the wisdom of the crowds about what I should do next rather than just like thinking myself about what I should do. So you should go there. You should upvote videos you want to see. Nathaniel Essex, 1849. Good afternoon. I enjoyed your Operation Condor video. Have you done one for other U.S.-involved coups? Not that I can think off the top of my head. I did mention the coup in Iran in my brief history of Iran video. So maybe. If there's other ones you think are particularly interesting, I would go to the link, as I said in the previous question. Okay. Man, okay, I'm getting lots of questions, and we have 15 minutes left, so let me just try to see if I can start chewing through these a little bit more. Good night. I hope the stream goes well. Have fun. I enjoy your videos, and finish this one later. DFTBA. See you, friends. Good night, Blondie. Okay. Anzus, what are your thoughts on universal basic income and le salaire à vie? Do you have a preference? So le salaire à vie is a French sort of UBI alternative that would have I think it has to do with like nationalizing industry and channeling the profits of capitalism to the people who live in the. I honestly, it sounds like a transitionary phase from capitalism to communism. I would probably say that from the question, I would assume that you've watched Mexi's video on the subject, and I would think that her criticisms of La Salariée are probably pretty apt. I would say, I don't agree with her on all the things that she puts out, but I do think that Mexi had a pretty good analysis of the sort of questions I had about La Salariée, and honestly, like, the better option would be to get rid of capitalism altogether, and UBI is like a thing that we have the political reality to do, like, right now. Like, the politician who puts in universal basic income would probably have the political will to do it right this second and would probably get a lot of votes for doing it. But at the moment, La Salariée would require major social and economic restructuring that you might as well apply to dismantling the entire capitalist system anyway. So, yeah, that's where I would go with that. Blondie, even though you just went to bed, hey, this is my first stream. Are streams still on your channel when you're finished with them? So yes, all streams are available on my stream when I'm done with them. They go unlisted, but if you go to the playlists tab, you'll see that there are playlists for my streams. So you can go to the countdown streams to just watch these ones that I do before videos come out. You can go to the Step Back Tonight playlist and see all the Step Back Tonight episodes, or all of them. There's one that has all of them together. And also Subscriber Appreciation Day, which I'm a bit behind on. That's because I've been trying to coordinate some people around. It's been taking a while. All right, square brackets. What are your thoughts on nationalizing the oil industry that's been done in countries like Norway? I mean, if you had to harvest oil, I guess that's the way you should do it. But I would rather that Norway not dig up oil. But hey, if you have to, putting it in a national trust so that you can you can transition off of oil in a safe way seems pretty smart. 255 AD. Would there be restaurants in a communist world? In the bread book, Kropotkin seemed a bit down on restaurants. I guess they were more of an elitist thing in 1893. Yeah, they were a bit more of an elitist thing. And actually, there were restaurants in the USSR. People would go to them. Now, I will say that that USSR was only vaguely communist, and they still had money and things like that. But they were still public restaurants, and very often the introduction of communism resulted in them being actually more snooty. Like, it was actually really hard to get into a restaurant because I guess they weren't under any impression to say that the customer is always right, and so a lot of times there were to even be allowed to eat in a restaurant was considered like a special occasion. That being said, I do think that there are lots of people out there who the vocation that they want to do with their lives is to run a coffee shop and bookstore or cook food. Like, there are people who cooking is their lives, and if they want to do that for a public audience, then, like, why not? Like, I think that there will be restaurants. There probably won't be as many, but also you won't be working as much, so you won't, like, be, under the pressure to just, like, hate cooking. But I do think that there will at least be, to some extent, restaurants around. There will just probably fewer of them. All right. Isaac. Mr. Johnson, does Canada celebrate Columbus Day? We do not. Columbus Day is not acknowledged in Canada, but Columbus Day usually does fall on our Thanksgiving. So take that however you like. All right, square brackets again. Do we know? So we know Trump violated an emoluments clause because he was opening a new business in Saudi Arabia a year after he gives them $1 billion weapons deal. Didn't Carter just give up his peanut farm? Yeah, it's definitely he broke his emoluments clause. Like, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, you are right. Are anarcho-primitivists an active movement? I actually don't know. I think that if they are, they're very online. I've never seen a anarcho-primitivist, but I also don't spend a lot of time in, like, weird corners of the internet. So maybe I am just, maybe I'm just not hip to it. All right. I mean, I don't think Columbus deserves to be forgotten. I think he just doesn't deserve to be revered. It's funny because by accident, I think Columbus has had more of an impact on human history than many human beings who have, I would almost argue any human being that has ever lived. Scientifically, politically, geologically, biologically, so much changed because of Christopher Columbus. But he should not be remembered as some sort of hero, just as someone who had a gigantic impact on human history. All right, because... All right. James Gardner, do you listen to Chapo Trap House? I do. I hate that I do, but I do. I'm even a gray wolf, and I actually pay money and get the 2 episodes a week because it's just it's a show that makes me laugh. It's a show that, like, when you live in a world where you have no anarchist friends and I have one anarchist friend, but all we do is play D&D together. But like when you have nobody to like just be cathartic and get mad about all of the horrible shit that's going on in the world, it's good to have a group of people who are also pissed off about the same things and are very funny about it. So it's a very cathartic show for me. Sir, finally, I can watch one of your streams. Welcome, Sir Jojo. Welcome back. Oh man, I'm starting to get stuffed up. I suspect that I'm going to be getting sick soon. Isaac Gown, will we ever meet your very cool looking father, maybe in a stream? Oh yeah, so this is a good story. So on Thanksgiving, I went home, and at Thanksgiving dinner, we were looking at my dad. My dad has, since I last saw him, between the time before and when I saw him, he had stopped shaving, and so he grew a beard. And then we realized that, all right, my dad is into, European power metal that most people have never heard of. His favorite band is Nightwish and stuff. And so his favorite music is stuff that people have never heard of. He's into craft beer. He has a beard. And then he was wearing this, really gaudy, Santa Fe tourism shirt that we were like, oh, he's wearing it ironically. And so we all came to the conclusion that my dad is ridiculously hip. He is the most on-point, trendy, awesome. He is, because when you're ironically wearing t-shirts, that means that you are so cool that it's a gaudy t-shirt, but you're wearing it anyway. And so we had this whole back and forth about how my dad is a hipster and how my dad is secretly way more stylish than any of us, which if you knew my dad, you'd find very funny. But I took a picture of him and put it on Twitter, and I said, my dad is cooler than me, and it got a whole bunch of likes, and people thought it was really funny. So maybe if I'm ever in Burlington when I have to do a stream, maybe I'll have my dad on. That'd be fun. I wonder what he would say. Yeah, my dad is super into he likes Nightwish, he likes Within Temptation. He wants this is another great story. So my dad, when he was really into this stuff, this kind of gothic metal scene, he took me to a concert to go see Epica because he loves Epica. My dad is really into this he's really into this music, but he's totally not a metal guy. He's 61 years old. He's this 61-year-old just totally one of the most nerdy, dorky, normal blend dad guys ever. He's the most dad ever. He's great. I love him so much. He's been a really great role model for my life. But but we went to this concert to go see Epica, and this is really early on, and my dad had never Epica hadn't really come to the Americas yet, And so this concert was so empty. But also, it was in a bar in Toronto on the second floor, and it was like this, like, black light club that was, like, obviously, like, a goth club. So my dad, so, like, me, like, not, like, you know, me, not cool at all. My dad, probably wearing, like, a short sleeve striped polo shirt and jeans. And the two of us go into this goth bar with, like, all of these people, like, you know, all of the piercings and all of, like, the dark and gothic clothes and, like, black lights on and, like, freaking, like, neon shit and, like, all that stuff everywhere, and freaking this power metal band's playing, and then there's just the two of us at this concert. It was the most ridiculous like, scenario to be in, and I just love I love that my dad's like that. I just love, like, the juxtaposition of him versus the culture in the music that he's in is so different. It's so funny. All right. We're really running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to take any more questions on my list. I just got a few here, and I'll try to answer them really fast. Allegedly, Trump asked one of his advisors why they can't just print more money to pay off the country's debt to China. What would happen if the U.S. actually tried to do that? You'd probably have, given how much debt the U.S. is into China, it would take a lot of money, and that would cause some rampant inflation. So much so that it would probably destabilize the economy and cause massive panics. Although it would be really great for millennials because if there was rapid inflation and all of a sudden, you know, you were getting paid a shit ton of money, but that money wasn't worth anything, all of a sudden your student loans are not worth much either. So there'd be rapid inflation, a whole bunch of economic crazy stuff would happen, but there would be the plus side that a lot of student debt would be wiped out. Emery, I've seen an interview on Antifa after Charlottesville, and in some meetings they were protecting left people with guns. Do you think that's okay? I think that being armed in self-defense is, in cases where you know you're going to be attacked by people potentially with weapons, then yeah, that makes sense. I would not be for, like, you know, carrying a gun on your person every day, and just in case, or thinking that deluding yourself that you can use guns to overthrow the government. But yeah, if you think you're going to get attacked by Nazis, having weapons on you would probably be a smart idea. Yeah, I by the way, I could tell way more stories about how great my dad is. My dad is one of my favorite people. I am so lucky that I got to grow up with him. All right, Nathaniel Essex, first time streaming with you. Will you do a Patrice Lumumba Mobutu Siseko connection video? As I said, go to the page with the ideas. Just scroll up, Night Watcher, put it in there. You just go and click on that and submit the idea, and I'll vote it up. All right, let me just try to see if I can get some more. Your thoughts on Politicon? So far, it's been bad organizing with the most popular right-wing pundits dropping out of debates. I don't see the point of debating far-right people, to be honest. I don't really see a positive to it. You're not going to be able to convince them or any of their fans that, you know, people who aren't white have the right to exist. But, you know, I don't know if you can do that, really. Less serious question, what's your favorite archaeologist? Ooh. I'm going to have to pass on that one right now. I can't really think of one at the moment. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The exception clause allowed it as punishment for crime. Comment. I really think that I really don't like the exception clause. That was baked into the thing itself, but yeah, no. Isaac Gown. Have you done a video on Trotsky, Martov, and the Mensheviks? Will you ever? I would say go to the link, submit it. Suppose Trump died in 2014 and the U.S. had a more standard Republican president right now, Jeb Bush say, would the country actually be better off? I think that many of the same things might have happened, but Democrats would complain about it less, which I think would mean things would be slightly worse off, because at least people are aware that Trump is doing all of the same things that your standard boilerplate Republican president is doing. It's just that he's doing it while being a dick, and apparently that's enough that it makes most Democrats mad. But I think that, like, you would still see people if Jeb Bush's brother was the first person who appointed Brett Kavanaugh to a different court. So I think that, you would definitely see the same types of people, the same kinds of things happen. The only difference is that Trump wouldn't make the news, so Democrats would complain less. Why do you hate that you do? Well, Chapo Trap House has some problematic aspects to it. I could go into it in a different time, but we're kind of out of time right now. Speaking of your dad, did you chew up his house and climb on the couch? Oh man, so many deep cuts. That's a Twitter joke because I took a picture of how much I was jealous that my parents have a dog and I don't. And last question, suppose the 1995 Norwegian rocket incident had led to a full-scale nuclear war between the U.S. and Russia. Do you think there'd be any humans left to live today? There probably would be, but not that many. All right, it's 2 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock, friends. All right. Let me just get my vid for you, friends. Come on. It's so slow. Okay. All right, friends. I'm putting in the chats now that this is the new video. I hope you guys like it. All right. Have a great week. I am going to have a video coming out on Saturday, so stay tuned. Goodbye, friends. You guys have been awesome.